it.
Today's episode of the Outline Podcast is brought to you by Vinyl Me Please. Join their Record of the Month club at www.joinvmp.com/outlinepod. Today's podcast is also brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/outlinepod. Once again, that's www.audibletrial.com/outlinepod. Let's start the show.
Yeah. The Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne. Yeah. The Outline. With Kevin Dwayne. The Outline. With Kevin Dwayne. This is the Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Kevin Dwayne with Kevin Dwayne.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's The Outline with Kevin Dwayne. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. This is episode 52, which means we have made 1 year of The Outline Podcast. We are a few days shy. I started this podcast last year on July 15th, 2016. And what do you know? Here we are, and I can't believe it. I can't believe that I committed to something this long. I've showed up every week except that 1 week I was sick. But see where that bonus episode came in that 1 week? We were good. See, I caught up with you guys. But I am super excited. But I don't want to celebrate by myself. So I invited a special guest to celebrate with me. On the show today, I have journalist, host, and interior designer Jarrett Hill.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jarrett.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here, and congratulations on 1 year. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. It's really, really, really weird, all the changes that have happened over the last 52 weeks, to say the least.
I would say I'm 51 weeks away from something crazy happening in my life a year ago. So definitely understand, everyone's had a good year.
Absolutely. And yes, definitely the trajectory of your life has been super awesome, Mr. Ebony Magazine, Power 100, honoree, or whatever.
Thank you.
Come on, humble approach, right?
Nobody likes that guy.
What are you talking about? Come on, award winner.
No, it's been a very good year.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we're out here working and being creative and stuff like that. But this podcast has been very enriching to my life, I have to say. I've met really great people in the podcast community. I've collabed with some great people, and I've learned a lot about engineering that I didn't think I'd learn.
Listen, okay.
As you know, because you have your podcast, it's like, my God,
right. You learn stuff about stuff that you didn't even know that you needed to learn about. Right. I didn't know what I didn't know that I didn't know.
Right. And it happens from you saying, why does this sound like this? Or how do I change this? Or someone complaining about something.
What is that clicking sound?
Right.
Or why didn't it? Yeah, no, it's so annoying sometimes trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Seriously. And you figure it out. And you're like, oh, wow, I've learned something. And then after a while, you're like, wow, this has come a long way. So last week, I was just kind of listening to older episodes of mine and cringing at the same time.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
You're like, oh, my God.
And you feel like, I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me because we've come a long way.
Exactly.
So, amen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
I totally understand.
It's the craziest thing.
You're putting me up on game about the gain on my microphone. I have a home microphone that I use for when I do things like this. And you're like, oh, turn the gain down. And I'm like, bitch, look at you.
Right. I'm totally gonna be a producer after this. I'm just gonna be.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
I'm just gonna move right into music.
Doing a podcast, you got to do it all.
And listen, we're gonna get into that too. It's just you just go with the path. That's what you do. But I just want to take a quick moment to thank the listeners. Thank you guys so much for all the wonderful comments. Thank you for just keeping me going. When I was late, sliding in my DMs, cussing me out, telling me that it's not acceptable, and and keep me real. I appreciate that. that. But I also wanted to do a quick shout out. Like I'm gonna be real radio show hood for a second and shout out
Uh-oh.
all the people that were guests over the last year. I'll start with Jarrett because you're here and it's still a part of the year. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Of
But
course.
I also want to thank Dr. John Paul, Charlie Butler, Hollywood Mike, Mwabi Kara, Ronald Matters of Hereford Pod, John Effect, Trelificent of Gay Side Stories, Jaden Hollywood of the Unapologetic Pod, Grab Your Jimmy, Elliot Simpson, Sensei Raven, Lonnie, Sharif Kelly, Jabari Scott, and Dwayne Walter. I feel like I just won a Soul Train Award. I swear to God.
I was gonna say.
That's what
First,
it
I
feels
gotta
like.
thank God for like, oh, okay, we'll get in.
From
I
whom all
appreciate it.
blessings flow.
Right.
Seriously. But thank you guys so much for believing in the show. And some of you asked to be on the show. Some of you I was able to get, and I was shocked when you said yes. So thank you all so much for just believing in the outline and rocking with me through this transition. Like, it's so exciting, and I'm sure there's more to come because that's just how life works. But yeah, like speaking about wanting to be a producer, I was checking out the HBO documentary, the Defiant ones. Have you heard about that?
I actually just got the push alert like yesterday, like, hey, it's up now. And I was like, okay, HBO now, calm down. We
Yo,
get
right.
it.
But
But
like,
I just
don't
haven't seen it yet.
between HBO Now and Tidal, like they send the most like alerts ever. Like,
Yo, my push alerts, listen, what I don't need is push alerts from HBO. Like, I probably should turn it off. I get it, y'all. Like, I get it.
well, it's amazing. I thought I was gonna watch. It's a 4-part streaming show, so you can watch all 4 parts on HBO Now. But I guess they're playing it week by week on the actual channel. So
While you're talking, I'm gonna turn it on the TV so I can at least see what you're talking about since I haven't seen. Oh, there it is. It's the first thing up.
see,
All right, praise God for
as it
Jesus.
needs to be, but that's when you got the money. They do that for you.
I mean, all right. So I'm gonna turn it on and have it on mute so I can see what you're talking
Oh,
about, and then I'll go back and
absolutely.
actually watch it.
Oh yeah, you have to. So basically, what it is a 4-part series about pretty much Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine's relationship as business partners, and it's just really cool because it does like this kind of dual storytelling thing. So it's like telling both of their stories from beginning and showing how they meet in the middle. And
Okay.
they cover everything. Like the footage is crazy. Like I was thinking to myself, like, how do you have this much exclusive footage from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s? And all I could also think about was imagine how much footage Beyonce has. Like,
Oh my God. Okay.
if you guys have
Because
this much.
Beyonce has a full Kardashian crew following her around all day, every day, and ain't doing nothing with it but making documentaries every few years.
And I'm
So
here
it's
for
like,
it.
y'all got some shit on tape, and I know that non-disclosure agreement has got to be tight.
So tight.
Like, oh my gosh.
Like death is actually a clause in it. Like,
Listen, and it's not a joke either.
it's
Okay,
not. Like you will die. Because no one's team is as mum as Jay-Z and Beyonce's. No one's team. Like, it's so quiet. Like, how?
they're literally tighter than the Lighthouse right now.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
No, absolutely.
yeah,
That's absolutely
that
right.
part contract is a real one.
So yeah, I can't wait to see like Beyonce documentaries like in the future where you get to see old Destiny's Child sessions from like Writings on the Wall and
It's gonna take like Blue is gonna have to do it after they did.
yeah.
Like, oh, we have all this amazing footage of my parents, and I just felt like we really owed it to the fans to let them get a look at my parents that they never really got to see. And be like, oh, word? Okay, is it on HBO now? Did I get a push alert?
Seriously.
Like, can we do that?
Seriously, when I'm in
Yeah.
my convalescent home, I'm gonna gag, okay? I'm going to live right there. I'm just saying, we're gonna be up there when they're
That's-
gone. They're gonna live for a long time. They have the money to.
Well, yeah, right. They're drinking like diamond water and shit. So
Seriously,
no, yeah.
seriously.
I actually, I just saw Diddy pop up, and I just watched his documentary on Apple Music, called "Can't Stop, Won't Stop,"
Phenomenal.
which is the best name ever.
Phenomenal.
Yes, it was really good, and like I was thinking the same thing about all this different footage that they had, and some of it is news footage, and some of it looks like it was shot on somebody's camcorder, back in the day, and it is kind of dope to be able to go back and hear their voices, see their faces, and watch what was happening around them at those times, and for them to be able to kind of narrate and say like this is what was happening, and then be able to go and see the footage of that. So I'm looking forward to watching the Defiant ones after seeing Can't Stop, Won't Stop.
Seriously, and it's just I love the drama of it all too. The way the cinematography works is always like, yeah, what's going through, and it's like a slow roll, and it's like slow
Right. Like
motion.
if you watch Can't Stop, Won't Stop, like all of the footage in Diddy's house is in black and white on a steady cam, and almost a lot of it is in slow motion, and it's like this is dramatic as fuck, and I cannot stop watching it. Like
I loved
it's
it. I loved
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like especially the ending when they were showing all those slow mo shots of them on the stage. I was like, this is beautiful.
Yes, it was beautiful, and like, and I mean, it's also interesting to see someone like Diddy, who is just like oozes confidence and charisma and all this, like to see him nervous before going on stage, and to see him like kicking himself after a performance, and I feel like he did good enough, but he had tomorrow night to go out there and do it again, and I think I think my favorite moment. One of my favorite moments is when they're in the rehearsal facility, that enormous place outside of Philly, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is so dope! Like, this is the best shit ever! I didn't know it was this big, son!" Like, they're all like so thrown off by how dope it is, and then he walks in and he was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Right, I need God light.
Right? He was like, "These lights, I hate these lights. This light is shit.
What was it? He said,
I
I
need
don't.
God light.
He said, I don't want the Christ that looks like the Bentley. I want the Bentley.
I want the Bentley." And I was so gagged because Puff was like, "I know y'all think this is some hot shit,
It's
but
not.
no, this is actually whack as fuck." So I loved that because like I feel like I mean and I know we're gonna talk about being creatives, but there's something about seeing something in your mind's eye and how you want it to look, how you want it to feel, how you want people to experience it, how you want people to move in it, and then seeing what someone else's interpretation of that is, and it's not what you want. And so like, yes, this is beautiful, you guys. Like the lights are so cool. I love it. It's me. Here's the thing, I hate everything. Like, I
Everything.
mean, I'm sorry.
It's
You
basic.
guys did a great job. This is what I wanted. Exactly. This is the Chrysler and I want the Bentley. That's rude as shit.
And I
I'm
won
sorry.
in 10
It just
minutes.
is.
And I won in 10
Yeah.
minutes. That's all you're getting.
I mean, listen. So I mean, I appreciated it, but it was also hysterical.
So good. And it was a lot of moments in there. Like, I was like, I got more of Diddy in underwear than I wanted. But I was like, we got a lot of
Okay.
underwear shots here. Like, this is
The
not.
funny thing is, so like he's not in like amazing shape, but he's not in bad shape either, right?
Right.
But I actually think he's more attractive now than he was back then. Like he just looks like a grown man now, as opposed to like a kid. I mean, he was cute back then with his curl and all that shit, but like I feel like he's more handsome now, and like, oh, okay, I can see that. All right,
Seriously.
But anyway,
I agree. No, I absolutely agree. And then yeah, it was a great. If you guys haven't seen it, please watch it. It's so good. But what have you noticed that there's like an influx of like 90s based programming for us now? Like to be like an aging millennial right now is everything. Like there's
oh yeah, I mean we're the largest demographic out there right now. I mean, and I'm always looking at things through the lens of politics because of a lot of the work that we do at the show. And like we are now the largest voting bloc, and like we are the largest group of of an audience, and that's really really interesting. But it's also interesting to me because we are aging out of like the young demographic,
Mhm.
and I only noticed this like 2 years ago. I was saying to a friend of mine, I was like, I feel like the VMAs used to be so amazing, but they're like shit now. And my friend goes, you're not in the demographic for that anymore, right? And I was
Right.
like, you are rude as shit.
Right.
Like,
What are you talking about?
don't come in here saying that bullshit to me. I'm not in the mood for that.
How dare
But
you?
it's true. Like, exactly. Like I think the youngest millennials now are between 20 and 22, and so like we're slowly kind of like aging out of that. So it'll be interesting to watch how that changes over the years.
Absolutely, and it's kind of cool though because I've also noticed that just age in general. I look at like my oldest siblings are like approaching 50, but they
Mm.
seem so young compared to what 50 seemed like years ago. Like
So you're the youngest, is that right? I'm trying to remember.
I'm actually number 6 of 8. So yeah,
Okay.
there's actually 2 under me. So we range from 23 to 47.
Yo, that's a window.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's quite a window.
Window.
It's quite a
So
window.
yeah, I'm in a blended family, so I was the oldest for a long time until my dad remarried, and his wife has kids that are older than me. But my parents are 54 and 55, and so I have relatively young parents.
Hmm.
which, always makes things interesting, like with friends when they're like, "Oh, my dad is 70." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a very different
Very
experience."
different.
Like,
That's my grandpa.
yeah,
What?
my grandfather is 94 right now, and he's in his last days now, and it's like 94 is like a long ass time, and thinking about age through that lens.
Seriously, and isn't it crazy? Like with the same thing with like with the older siblings or even like your parents, is you notice like, wow, these were actually when you see Straight Outta Compton and you see these documentaries, they actually were the ones listening to this music.
Right.
So you're like, wait a minute, you're a grandma now, but like you kind of ushered in like the gangster hip hop. Like, what is it's
Well,
like,
yeah. Well, and like I don't want to get too deep on your ass, but like I was that is actually what helped me to really have a better relationship with my parents. Thinking about, I remember the first time I ever thought, right after I turned 30, I thought about my parents and where they were when they were 30, and they had a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I was like,
my
I
God.
don't know what the entire fuck I would do if I had two kids. Like I'm having a hard time taking care of me.
Listen, it's
And like,
tough. It's tough.
listen, yeah. And so I just thought to myself, I was like, if and thinking about like how there's no manual for being a parent, there's no class or no book, or I mean, I guess there are books, but you know what I mean. And thinking to myself like, oh, they were just trying to figure this shit out,
Yeah,
like,
and they did the best they
and
could. Yeah.
exactly,
Even when
exactly,
you hated them, like growing up, you're like, you're so mean. Why are you doing this
right.
to me?
Absolutely. I mean, even when I'm hating them now, I still have to like rein it in and be like, listen, they're just doing the best that they can. And like for me, it's interesting with my mom and my dad specifically because I'm their oldest. So like I'm the first time they're having to deal with like an adult who is their kid and how to
Right.
address that person and all that kind of stuff. So
Have you had the
anyway.
switch happen? Like when my parents started getting older and I started getting older, this switch happened where it seemed like I became the parent and I didn't like it too much. Like,
Oh.
like it was
I
like,
thought I was thinking of a different switch. No, I haven't had that yet because my parents, like I said, my parents are still relatively young in the grand scheme of things, even though 50 does not sound young at all. But no, I haven't had that switch. I've had the switch where they had to start addressing me like an adult.
uh,
Um, and that was like a fight that me and my mom were having one day, and that was interesting. After on the other side of it, I was like, "Whoa, we had a moment." But I haven't had that one yet.
oh, okay. Yeah, it was just weird. Like I remember, I started paying like bills and stuff from my mom. Like, like I'm making a little money now, and all of a sudden now I'm checking the phone, be like, who are you talking to all day? Who is this? Why
Uh-uh.
are you not using your top five? Wait, this bill is too high. I have to pay these. Like what happened? And she's
Hilarious.
like,
Who was
well,
you on the phone with at 2 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours, huh?
right, or going somewhere and not let me know where were you?
Right.
I thought something
No, I
happened to
actually
you.
called the number. Who is Michael? It's like, excuse me?
Right, just
No.
the roles just switched. I'm like, what is happening? This is weird. What?
Exactly.
All this caring about my parents. What?
I love it.
Seriously. So, in the same vein of entertainment, I did want to move towards, I guess over the weekend. Not I guess I know over the weekend. The True Blood actor Nelsan Ellis, who played Lafayette, passed away
Mhm.
because of heart failure, which he was so young. He was 39 years old, and does that not shake you up a little
Listen,
bit? Like it shakes me up when you see these young
I
numbers.
yeah, I mean, first of all, it's funny to me that that's young now because back in the day, 39 seemed like ancient.
Ancient.
Yeah, but like having a three in front of your age definitely changes that. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge True Blood viewer, but I definitely knew the Lafayette character, and even had like references for Lafayette. So when I saw the headline, to be very honest, I didn't know him by the name Nelsan Ellis until I clicked on it, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's
Right.
Lafayette." And like other friends of mine who have been big fans of the show were talking about it and saying like, "Oh man, I can't believe he's gone." And then you always start the speculation on what on what these explanations mean and that kind of
Okay.
stuff. But it was surprising and sad to hear. So yeah, it was definitely caught me off guard.
He was definitely a staple of the show. I didn't watch all the seasons. I think I like binge watched like 6 seasons, but then after a while, you just like everything starts bleeding together. You're like, okay, I don't know what I'm watching anymore.
Then
And
it's just hot sex scene after hot sex scene that you remember,
pretty
like
much, pretty
Todd
much.
Brooks's ass, Alexander Skarsgård's ass,
Right.
like
Yep.
abs,
Exactly.
abs, pecs, pecs.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much what it became to me. So I kind of stopped watching. But I thought the interesting thing about he was such a beloved character that they didn't kill him off. In the books,
Mhm.
they killed him off early on, but because he was so
Mhm.
good, they kept his character the entire show. And I was like, that says a lot.
That's dope.
That says a lot
I
about
love
it.
how actors can influence the roles that they play and in the storytelling. The story I always think about with that the most specifically is Family Matters and how Steve Urkel was only supposed to be in the first episode,
Yeah.
and how by the end of the first season he was the show, and that's like a testament to a great actor, and looking at Nelson to be able to kind of transcend where the expectation was for him of where that character would go. I mean, it just speaks to great work.
It definitely does. And so the Hollywood Reporter put out an article today. The family decided to speak out and give more details into his death, hoping to, I guess, help other people. And so through his manager, Emily Sains, she worked with his father. And so she let Hollywood Reporter know some things. And this is what
Shout out to the Hollywood Reporter.
Right. This is what they actually reported today. This is what she said to them. She said, Nelson's father has bravely agreed for me to share the circumstances of Nelson's heart failure. Nelson has suffered with drug and alcohol abuse for years. After many stints in rehab, Nelson attempted to withdraw from alcohol on his own. According to his father, during his withdrawal from alcohol, he had a blood infection, his kidney shut down, his liver was swollen, his blood pressure plummeted, and his dear sweet heart raced out of control. That broke my
Wow.
heart.
That's amazing.
Later on, it says that Nelson was ashamed of his addiction and thus was reluctant to talk about it during his life. But his family, however, believes that in death, he will want his life to serve as a cautionary tale and attempt to help others.
It's sad to hear that he died trying to make it right.
Right.
How to try to turn it around.
And the grave effects of addiction, like that your body, there's literally a process of rehab,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and that your body gets so used to it that you can actually die when you're trying to actually go back to operating on your own.
Yeah, and I mean withdrawal's a real ass thing, man.
Yeah.
Like that's really difficult in all the ways that your body physiologically becomes dependent on whatever substance or activity. Yeah, no, that's really heartbreaking. I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, it was super heartbreaking, but it seems like his family seems like a really, I don't know, I just get the sense that they were probably a really tight knit type of thing. I mean, if they spoke to him and they knew how he was suffering and how he felt about things, and everyone who's worked with him has nothing but nice things to say. But when you die, everyone tends to say nice things. So there's
Well,
that.
that's true too.
There's
Listen,
that. Like, you were a
they
terrible
only take
person.
right. God never takes the bully, right?
Right.
So
But yeah,
no, yeah, but
it's positive vibes to his family and all those who loved him. But I did want to touch on that
absolutely.
a little bit, though sad. I guess we'll try to lighten it up, and I'll talk about I went speed dating on Saturday.
Oh God, I'm so
Yeah.
nervous for you told me that you were going to talk about this, and I'm like, I'm so nervous for you. I hope that this went well because
Well,
speed dating sounds like it could be a disaster. And
or
I
it
was
could
just
be
watching
really, really
pictures.
fun, So basically it was a gay speed dating, and it was powered by Better Way to Meet. Have you heard of them?
Better way to meet. Yes. Oh, that's like the black gay.
Right. It's a
Yeah. In
matchmaking
Atlanta,
service. Yeah. It's a
and it
matchmaking
started in
service.
Atlanta.
Right. So
Okay.
it started out, I saw that they had speed dating events before, like on Facebook and stuff, but I always missed them. You know how you see it like the day later. You're like, oh, that would have been kind of cool to go to.
Right.
And
Or
this
you see it and it's starting in 45 minutes, and you're like, well, I ain't making it today.
exactly, because listen,
Yeah.
Sex and the City's on and I'm gonna go ahead and rock.
Hello, listen, and I just got this cheesecake out of. Never mind. I'm sorry, I'm getting way into the weeds. Go on.
But I get it.
I'm telling you my story, but go on.
You're
Sorry.
speaking truth. You're speaking truth.
Right.
So I was invited. I guess I caught the invite this time. And so I was like, okay, I'll check this out. So I was like, well, I'll go, but let me ask two of my friends if they want to go too. So I asked them. I said, sure. Why the hell not? Let's make it a group event. So all three of us decided to go. So it was like
I
this.
feel like going in a group. I'm sorry. I feel like going in a group makes it more empowering because if you go by yourself, you might feel like kind of a loner.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would probably feel that way. It was like, if I was going with friends, I would go, but I'm not going to go by myself. So shout out to that.
Yeah, so I think we all were kind of curious of how it's going to work out because we've all seen like the speed dating on television where it's like the tables and it's like a bell or something. You're just moving across like musical chairs and you're just talking to all these random ass people. And so we're all like, how are they going to do it? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? How do we make sure we don't have to talk to each other? We know each other already. So
Right, exactly.
there are tons of questions like that. So we're like, let's just just go and figure it out. How about that? So it was at this restaurant called Compass Grill. It's like off in Lindbergh, near Lindbergh Station. And so it was there, and we got there pretty much on time. We're like, you know what, we probably should be on time because I have a feeling there'll be like an introduction because you don't want to just pop up and things are going. You're like, what the hell do I do? So we're like, let's just be on time. No fashionably late things going on tonight. So we got there fairly on time, and so they're like, oh, go by the bar and we'll get started soon. So next
You said fairly on time.
Fairly.
Everyone that's listening was like, he was late.
No,
but go on.
not.
Sorry.
It was like
That's what I heard you say.
That's what you
I
heard
don't know
me
if that's what
say.
you actually
Fairly
said.
on
Right.
time. Well, you know, I'm chronically on time. That's my thing. People actually hate that about me because I'm always the one. They're like, the party starts at 9. I'm like, okay. And I'm the one sitting
You're
in my
outside
car.
parking at 8:50.
Right, they're like,
Right.
here comes Kevin. We haven't even cooked yet. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Right.
I can't help it. Even when I try to be late, traffic clears up for me. It's the craziest thing. I don't know.
What a great problem.
What a great problem, right? So we get there. So they start passing out these forms. So the guy's like, okay, write your name on this name tag. You know, the hello, my name is. And then you're going to be number 1. You're going to be number 2. You're going to be number 3. I'm like, oh, okay. So I ended up being number 2. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I write my name tag and they give us the sheet. The sheet has like a number at the top. So you had to register on your phone. It's like a Survey Monkey link, and it was so you could pretty much be in the database because I get it. They want clients, so that makes sense. So you had
Hello.
to right. It makes total sense. Smart move. So you register your number, and you know, your number and a couple other things so they can identify you. So the thing was this: you had to write down 3 lyrics from your favorite songs, like chunks of lyrics from your 3 favorite songs. And then there were all these there were rules of things you could not talk about during that time. You couldn't talk about sexual position, you couldn't talk about politics, you couldn't talk about religion, money, none of that. It had to be the lyrics.
Hold on. Okay, wait. Let me stop you right there. You can't talk religion, politics, or what else?
Or sexual positions.
Or sexual position. Okay, so I'm a person that always breaks the rules of religion and politics because I'm like, I need to know where you stand on some bullshit real quick before we even play this game. It's like, okay, well, what else are we gonna talk about? Like, do you watch Living Single or Will and Grace? Like, I don't even know where.
But see,
oh God, I'm so stressed right now thinking about this. Go on, I'm sorry.
Right. And it's funny because your reaction was literally everyone's reaction. I'm like, what? What the hell? What you mean? What if they're Trump supporters? No.
I was just about to say, like, what if you voted for Trump? I need to know that now. Like, we're not turning around from that. Like, no, I'm sorry.
There's no turnaround. No.
Listen, no. Like, I don't care how cute you are and how great your teeth were and how amazing your conversation was and that we have the same references to Clueless. You voted for Donald Trump, my nigga? No.
Right.
Like, no.
Nope, can't work. So the whole thing was this. You had to talk about the lyrics. So basically the whole idea was you're sharing your lyrics with one another and you're talking about why you chose those lyrics.
I'm thinking about your ratchet ass lyrics are like, touch me, tease me, and I'll be caressed. It's like,
and listen, that happened with quite a few people, but it was not me. But listen, I'll get to that too, because it was interesting. So, so they kind of brought us all into like this main room because we're all by the bar. And there's like a little sign up section, so we went to this main room by the DJ. And so they're going over the rules again and talking about if you don't register, we can't match you. So the whole idea is this. You would talk to someone for 3 to 5 minutes about your lyrics and stuff like that. And it can veer off as long as you're not talking about those hot topics that they say don't talk about. But if you like them or you were interested in them, you would write down the number on their badge or their name tag. And then if you guys...
You would just like secretly write it down.
Right. And so like Tinder, if you guys both wrote down each other's number, they'll match you and send you an email and say, go on a date. So
another day, not that same day.
Yeah, another day. Right. Okay. And that way you can talk about all the other things. Like, okay, so now we got that out the way. Who you vote for?
Right, exactly, right. How are you registered to vote? Like, what's your situation?
Right. What is your tea?
Right.
So yeah. But here's the part that I think needed a little bit of work, and it's funny because I'm totally gonna see about getting the founder on the show because I would love to interview him. They changed it up. I guess they didn't feel like doing the work of matching everybody or partnering everybody up. So they made it like, they're like, oh, just go up to someone every 3 to 5 minutes. I'm like, you're introducing the element of rejection. If people are shy, you're making it like a club though. So they're like, oh,
Yeah, that's kind of against the whole purpose, right?
exactly. So people are only going to go
Uh,
after the cute nigga in the corner. So
Oh
how does that work?
no.
Well, it ended up still working. I didn't see too many people. Like most time, people were matched because if you didn't match with somebody, the people who were hosting it would like say, "Here, you match with this person right now." And I'm like, but you could have alleviated this by just doing a setup where people just switch and just talk to
I'm sorry,
everyone.
I'm having sixth grade like team picking flashbacks right
Oh
now, like a
no,
little bit of PTSD of like being the last person not chosen.
it was
And then they're like,
interesting.
yeah.
It was interesting,
Oh,
and there was some of that too. But there were about 55 men there, which I thought was a great turnout.
nice.
And I counted, I ended up talking to 17 of them. I was exhausted. I was just like, I'm so.
Oh, fast hoe. Listen, look at you.
I was so exhausted because we're talking about the same damn thing. So
Right.
I'm sure someone's
And not talking about the same thing.
okay. And so I'm sure someone's gonna be like, what song did you pick, Kevin? I'll tell you. My number one song, and they weren't okay. So I have a trouble as a music fan, I have trouble when people ask me for absolute favorites because that's like
Oh,
it's so difficult. I can't
it's so hard.
it's so hard. You can never just choose, oh, yes, this is my favorite song in the world. That's not possible. It's just not. Sorry.
Well,
So
and like, weird to write down. I'm kind of buzzed, and it's all because this is how we do it. Like, no, that doesn't even work. Like, I can't. You know what I mean?
it doesn't work. But some
I,
people did.
if I can get mine in a big black truck, what does that even mean? Like, yeah, I can't. I don't even know why I would write that. Like, no, I'm not gonna write that down. I want to write something that makes me sound smart, but also, you know what I mean?
And
Sorry, go ahead.
that's exactly what I went through, Jared. That's exactly
So
what.
stressful.
So I
So
ended up. I
stressful.
just went to my most played playlist on my Apple Music, and I was like, okay, let's just see what's on here. And I tried to be run of the mill. So I think my first song was like "Gotta Be" by Desiree because I love that song. And then the second was like,
Really?
yeah, oh, it's so positive. I was just like, oh, this is great, you know, and it was a great talking
Okay.
point because you got to see who understood music from early 90s. If you didn't know that song, you're like, actually, get out of my face, you're too young. So
I love it.
it worked perfectly. My middle song was like Brandy, Like This from the Full Moon album. And then the final song was Love Will Never Do by Janet Jackson. And so I was like, okay, we'll work with this. And it was interesting sharing these. What are you thinking? What are you thinking, Jared?
Well, because I'm like, because so I'm weird about music, and I go through these phases where like I will listen to the same thing every day for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's not even something that I'm really into. It's just like what's readily available and stuck in my head. For instance, last month I went to Cuba, and I didn't like download music to my phone in time, and it was right after the Manchester thing with Ariana Grande. So like I had all of Ariana Grande's biggest hits, and like. And like the whole time in Cuba, it's side to side, or like, or dangerous woman. And I'm like, I'm not even in love with Ariana Grande like that. I mean, these songs are cute, but like, if I had to if I had gone speed dating, it'd have been like, been here all night, been here all day, and got me walking side to like. I mean, you know what I mean. So I'm like, I'm having a hard time thinking like, what are these three songs that I would have to write
and
down? Okay,
and that's exactly what happened. So one guy, I'm giving these great lyrics from these songs, you know, and I picked them, you know, the most meatiest of lyrics, you know, like, you know, challenge what the future holds, keep your head up to the sky. One dude's like, oh, I know you can't take it, you want to see me. I said, wild thoughts
oh,
already? Like,
wow.
I said, oh, that's your song. One dude had Fantasia, Free Yourself. I'm like, okay.
Okay, listen, that's real fuck
It
though.
is real as
Because if
fuck.
you don't want me, then don't
Talk
talk
to
to me.
me. Right.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
When I
real.
tell you, I have given a tithe many a time just over that lyric alone.
It's
If you
real.
don't want me, then don't talk to me. Like,
Don't
yeah,
free
sorry.
yourself. Exactly. You know, there was a couple my neck, my backs. There were a couple of those. I'm surprised I didn't see
Listen,
any look back at it's by Trina because that would have been everything.
no, not look back at
I'm
it.
just saying that would be
Okay,
everything. Listen, be who you are. And
it's like
so what some people
cotton
was cool.
candy, sweet as gold. Let me see that Tootsie Roll. Okay, well,
Right.
all right.
But
Sorry, go ahead. Tell your
but
story.
some people took it there, and some people had like all Biggie lyrics or all Tupac lyrics. I'm like, okay, that works too. And
Yeah, okay.
but honestly, it came down to energy though. There were some people that I was like, okay, you seem pretty cool, and it worked. It worked out. Now, the few people that were annoying were the ones who actually just said, "No, fuck this sheet. I didn't fill it out. I just came for the niggas." You're like, oh, okay, cool.
What?
Yeah,
No,
there
a
were
trifling ass nigga.
there
You
were
know what? Oh, see, that just pissed me
There
all
are
the way
quite a
off.
few. There are quite a few of those who are like, "Oh yeah, I came late and I didn't feel like filling this out, so this is the song I chose." I'm like, "So you didn't write any lyrics down?" Like, "No, this is the song I chose." I'm like, "Oh, okay,
I
cool."
just I'm okay, so you said Brandy, and now I'm thinking of all the different Brandy lyrics that could have worked there. And I'm like, you can't write down the lyrics to Have You Ever? Like, have you ever loved somebody so much it makes you cry? Have you ever needed something so bad? You can't do that at a speed dating because you sound desperate and sad. And then I'm sorry, this is gonna bother me all day now. After we get off this podcast, I'm gonna be thinking about this forever.
Oh no, think
What are
about
my
your three
three
songs,
songs?
so the next time there's a speed dating thing, you'll have them ready.
Oh God. And then you go through all this emotional work to figure out what these lyrics are, and then niggas didn't even write lyrics
They
down.
didn't really.
Oh,
One dude literally came up to me. He was like, "Yeah, I'm just looking for a cute boy like yourself who cooks and cleans. I just bought this house." I'm like, "So you're looking for a maid? Is what
good
you're
day,
saying?"
sir.
Right?
Right.
Like, I
I
mean,
said good day.
Google is free, so you can find a maid.
Looking
That's not a
for a
problem.
cute man like yourself who cooks and
He
cleans.
literally said that to me. He literally said
What?
that to me. And I was like, well, I was like, listen, I was like, now, would you be the sole breadwinner and I have my own account of money? Or
I mean, cause listen, I
that's the
listen.
only
I know
way.
how to work a broom and a stove. What's good?
But now for
'Cause I'm
free.
sick of working. Okay.
Seriously. So there were those. There were some like overall, there were some cool connections, but no one that I would be like head over heels, like, oh, I can't wait to see if we match. But there were some cool vibes. But I think it was kind of unfair because as a music lover, I pretty much knew everyone's lyrics. So I could always kind of have this kind of like, damn, you know that? Yeah. And we kind of talk about it. And so
Mhm.
it was kind of unfair, honestly, to come up with another litmus test for that because everybody think I was a match at that point. And I'm like, yeah, no, actually, I didn't like
So
you at all.
so now do you wait a few days and then you get your results?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like tomorrow, so we'll see how that works out. But there were some people like, you write my number down, I'm writing yours down. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I like to be private.
Ooh, right. That's like asking your Uber driver what rating they're gonna give you. You don't do that. Like, come on.
And right,
Like, no, you can't ask that.
you can't. And then
Wait, is there
continue.
go ahead.
What was your
Oh, is
question?
there anyone that you're hoping wrote your number down that you wrote theirs down, or did you not write any numbers down?
I actually wrote down four numbers.
Okay.
And once again, it was like they were cool, and I was like, I'd go on a date with you and see what happens. Like there was like really good vibes. There was actually one. I have to be honest. There was one.
Uh-oh.
Our little 3 to 5 minute date was actually really, really good. Like he was super attractive. And I was like, and we were vibing out, we were talking. But here's the thing. Something happened between that and the end of the night, and he did some things that turned me off. And I was like, do I scratch it out?
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, do I scratch the number out? Or do I just
Oh,
let
he's
it
like
be?
that sounds like I've been thinking a lot lately about how you can have a complete crush on someone on social media until you see a video and you hear them talk,
Right.
and you're like, you sound like an idiot, or you just said some bullshit, and it completely changes how you view the person.
That's exactly
I
what
want to know
happened.
what he did.
That he said some stuff that made me think, yeah, no. Like he
Oh
kind of
no.
reacted emotionally to something and it wasn't appropriate. And I was like, whoa. And I was just like, damn, like I really enjoyed our little 5 minute date.
So wait, his response to the stimulus was inappropriate. Like
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
I
So,
want to know more, Kevin.
well,
You're being vague. I
well,
want to
I
know.
just feel bad because I'm like,
I
well,
want to know.
well, ultimately, what happened was this. He actually, I guess, he was connected to one of the sponsors. So he
Mm,
ended up talking about something like I think it was like medical research or something. And so
mhm.
he went on this whole tangent about why black people are behind and da da da. And I was like, whoa, this is just not appropriate right now. And
Oh
then
no.
people literally had to tap him and say, hey, calm down. And I was just like, ugh, this is not the place for that. And so it just turned me off. And I was like, yeah, I might want to
Uh,
cross this number out.
it's one of those moments where your face doesn't change, but your eyes start to grow, and you're like, oh,
Yeah. And I was
okay.
like, but I enjoyed our 5 minutes.
Mhm. Listen.
So
Then he would have been like, well, the reason that I supported Trump was because I felt like he was an outsider. And okay, I gotta go. Uh,
seriously.
There's literally nothing that you can say right now.
Yeah, but overall, I think it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I would change up the format where it wasn't so awkward when you had to choose your own people. It should have been kind of one on ones, and you just switch like musical chairs, and that way you get more opportunities to like talk to different type of people. But overall, it was still a good time. The pot of men was balanced balance. There were some where there was a lot of desperation, I have to say. You're like, wow, like, you felt like,
Oh,
no, there were some that you felt like they were going to just jump off a cliff immediately after if no one married them, like, right then and
oh
there.
no!
Like, they're, like, literally, like, their lyrics were, like, the saddest things ever. Like, you know, like, the saddest Anita Baker song you can find. And you're just like, okay.
Oh no!
Yeah, you're like, oh my
Okay,
God.
I'm stupid, but I'm imagining someone writing down Anita Baker lyrics and writing, and it's like, you did not write that down, and then you sang it. No, I can't deal with this.
It's
No.
right there.
Next.
Yeah, I wrote it down right here. It's right here. Seriously. So there were some, you know, because it was a balance. So there were some, I think the youngest there was probably like 25, 26. And the oldest, there was one guy who was like, I think like 52 or something like that. And I remember he
Really?
had like all Ohio players and OJ songs. I was like, well, that's I was
Yes.
here for it. I was here for
He's
it.
pulling out Lakeside and the OJs and shit. Come on, I love it.
Bring out your jams, because that's gonna be me in 30 years with SWV. So it's okay.
Listen, my first job was working at a R&B and classic soul radio station, so I'm all the way with it. Let's get it.
All the way with it. But it was cool. I would say if they do more traditional speed dating, it'll be cool. But I think it was a great turnout. It was a free event at that. And it was a couple hours. And I definitely recommend it. It was something different. You didn't have those bullshit conversations that you have on the apps and stuff like that. So I do give major props for just changing it up, especially among Black gay men. So
Well,
I enjoyed it.
It's a good story for how you met. Oh, we met at like the speed dating thing. It's better than like, oh, we met at 1:00 in the morning on Grinder,
After
and I
grinding.
came over. Yeah, no, it's a good story.
And he stayed. I liked him. I made him breakfast, and now we're still together.
Exactly. And now, 3 weeks later, we're still in love. So it's great.
Ain't that it?
It's real.
So funny. So that was that. And I'll close out with the hot topics there. We're going to take a quick break and we'll get right into life of a creative. So here's the scenario. In the last year, you decided you wanted to go green. You live in a major city and no longer need a car to drive. You've ditched the headache of budgeting for gas, insurance, and those pesky maintenance fees. Public transportation is serving you just fine for getting where you need to go. But one day, you have some family coming into town and you want to greet them at the airport and even offer them a ride home. I mean, do you really want Granny to take the bus to your house? I didn't think so. So what's the solution? Zipcar. Zipcar is the world's largest car sharing network, providing wheels when you want them in 500 plus cities and towns. Zipcar offers over 50 makes and models of cars that range from hybrids to luxury vehicles to SUVs, pickup trucks, and cargo vans. Zipsters only pay for the time they actually use the vehicle and have no responsibility for additional costs and hassles associated with car ownership. You can drive cars by the hour or day with gas and insurance included. To earn $25 of free driving credit, go to joinzipcar.com/outlinepod. Again, that's joinzipcar.com/outlinepod. Let's get back to the show. Hey guys, we are back with the Outline Podcast. So, Jarrett and I, we're going to talk about being a creative, the life of a creative. Interesting tidbit. I've known Jarrett for almost 10 years, it feels like. Like 2008. So
I was trying to figure out when that was. Like,
it was during
was that 2008?
it was like, it had to be 2008, 2009, because it was during my little coming out on YouTube thing. I remember Darian Aaron, shout out to Darian. He did
Darian. Love Darian.
Right, me too. So he did a post about me. I had this whole ordeal, and I was already out. That was what's so crazy about it. I was already out, but then I had a close friend of mine. She sent me this hateful ass letter telling me to like not be her friend and delete her family and delete all, like, I just can't watch you go down this path. And I was just like, what the entire hell? Me being young as hell, I posted on my Facebook like, how dare she do this? Well, that kind of went viral.
Wow.
It kind of went viral. And that was awkward because, I felt, because she got like attacked and, we got over that. Like, we're friends now. But, that was a crazy moment, and yeah.
Wait, do I know this person? Without saying her name?
I think you do. You do. You should.
Wait. Oh, I bet. I
Yeah.
mean, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. You're good. You do.
Really?
Yeah. And so,
That's so interesting. I'm sorry, I'm
right,
really trying to
so,
be diplomatic
oh
here,
no,
not using names.
it's so cool, yeah. No, but somehow it got to Darian. And then Darren reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I kind of want to cover this. Like, do you have anything
For
to?"
LOL?
Yeah, and he's like,
Oh,
I kind of
wow.
want to cover this. Do you have anything you want to add to it?" So I was like, "Well, listen, let me go ahead and just put together a video. Like, I'm here for it because I was already had the outline on YouTube,
Oh, okay.
and
I feel like I saw you on YouTube. Maybe that's where I saw you the first time, I think, was on YouTube.
well, yeah, possibly. But I just know, like, I met like during like Darian, like literally that changed everything. It was crazy. Like all of a sudden, I had all of these people like following me. I'm like, what the hell? Like it was the craziest thing ever. And so I remember like it was so many different people that kind of popped up, and then I remember you being one of them too. And I was like, oh hey. And so yeah, and then I know you were doing YouTube too, and then it was just the whole. We were both kind of at that starting place of like being like, okay, let's see what happens by putting commentary on the internet. And so, I mean, listen, I look at like all those videos that we used to do are still up there, like, and I crack up,
Listen,
like.
and they are marked private. Amen. Like,
Well, the one you did about the diet was hilarious. That one is a classic. The
what are you
one
talking about?
we did it at it was at the Grove.
Oh, you mean shit? Shit
Yes,
people say
yes, it was like
something
diet.
like
It was
that.
like yeah, because we did shit liar say that was my video. Then you did one about dieting, and it was
Oh, that's right.
hilarious. So hilarious.
Oh no, because we were there to shoot your video, and then we started having a conversation about diets, and we're like, well, actually, we should do two videos. I
Yep,
think.
that's exactly what
I
happened.
think that's what happened.
And
That's so funny.
exactly, and that's why I thought this would be a perfect conversation today about just being a creative and kind of like going with the flow. So question: you do interior design, you're a writer, you host a show,
Hmm.
you do tons of things.
Hmm.
Where would you say it started? Like teenage years, like what was the first thing that you were passionate about?
Um, I would say being 5 years old, and uh, my dad always tells a story of looking for me in the house one day, like he's cooking dinner or something, and is like trying to find me, and finds me in the mirror, I think in the bathroom, talking into a hairbrush. I had just gotten a suit, like maybe like an Easter suit or something,
Come through.
and I had just gotten a suit, and I think it was my first suit, and I'm standing in the mirror talking into a hairbrush like I'm a reporter or news anchor, because that was my frame of reference for people that wore suits. Um, and he was like, "What the hell is going on in here?" And I mean, and it's always been, I would say, like in the forefront of my mind. I've always watched television as a kid with a very critical eye. So I would be, 8 years old, asking my parents if they recognized that they had changed the set on Family Matters. Like, oh, the walls are a different color. Or, The Price is Right. Oh, they've got new music. Or like, the host is doing something different or whatever. And my parents, and it's funny now because my parents hate watching TV with me now, especially like local news. After having been a reporter, I will sit there and watch the local news with them
And
and be
tear it
like,
apart.
oh my God. I'll be like, so we're just not going to center up this shot, guys? Is that what we're doing? That's cool. No, it's fine. No,
I'll be okay.
right. Like, clearly I'm the only person that cares about that. No one's bothered. No one cares. Okay, whatever.
I do that
Um,
with photography and video stuff all the time. I was just watching a music video yesterday. I'm like, oh, so they're just gonna use tungsten for this? Like, why?
oh my God. Like, I'll see, and I mean, I've designed graphics since elementary school with like drawing, but I'll be like, oh, so we thought Comic Sans was acceptable? We just thought that was an okay font to use. I'm asking the hard questions here. Is that okay? Fine. No. I mean, it's your judgment call. I'm only judging you, so it's fine. But yeah, no, for me, it started at really, really young and like really loving television and wanting to be inside the box and figuring out like, how do I get to the other side of TV? And eventually, my first job was, as I mentioned in passing a little bit ago, was working at a radio station. I was the youngest kid there, working at 98.1 Kiss FM, today's R&B and classic soul in San Francisco, and that kind of began me working in media. My first job, wow, yeah, my first job as a creative was in fifth grade. Me and Daniel Ordona had decided that because we could draw, we were going to start a business drawing people's names for them on graph paper and
Yes.
selling them for $1. And that is what we did. And mind you, Daniel is a fantastic artist now, and everything I do is generally on the computer now. So, yeah,
That's so awesome.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I guess it just kept cultivating. So did you know, did you have like something in mind? Like for instance, when I was a kid, it was like I loved music so much, but could not sing, could not play any instruments. I could dance, but where was that gonna go? And I remember just
Well,
loving
hey,
music. Right. There was that, and that's my writing came from actually. And then also, I loved what did I love? Jesus. I wanted to be an actor too. I loved anything
mm,
media. And then as I grew older, I started learning that I just loved everything art. I love
mm,
anything that was expressive was what I loved. And like it's just funny, like just trying to cultivate one's own thing and figure out where your place is. I never like you couldn't have told me even hell 7 years ago that I'd be a photographer for pay now.
yeah.
It's like one of
No,
those things.
absolutely.
It just snuck up on me, and it's just the same with like even like the blogging. Like I remember how I got to the Outline podcast. Really, I used to like blog like on MySpace. I would just write just stuff like
Yeah,
poetry
me
and
too.
stuff. Yeah, just random like things I'm going through with these random ass niggas. My heart's broken at 19.
Right, exactly. Because he was the one
Right,
until
he
he
was the
didn't
one.
act right.
Did not act right. Got me outside your house, ignoring my calls. You see me, I see you.
Right.
Right,
Listen.
right.
We
So
don't have. Ooh, sorry. Go
seriously,
ahead.
and so it started with that, writing, and then that was like kind of the burst of like I remember B Scott, and I loved B Scott. I was like, this is
Mhm.
amazing. Like I was like, this is amazing. YouTube was still fairly new, and it was just like, what is this? Like, what do you call like this B Scott guy is so cool, and
A love muffins.
right, hi
Yeah.
hi 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 hi.
Yes, I
Right. And I
remember
remember
that.
that. And I thought to myself, like, I want to do this. This would be so, like, this would be really cool. And so it went from, like, I had, like, the blog spot. The blog spot thing, little free account is like kevindwayne.blogspot.com. Okay.
.com.
Right. And
Yes.
then that went into YouTube. And I remember just going to,
Blogspot was trash. I'm
right.
sorry,
Oh,
Blogspot was awful.
right. It was
Looking
terrible.
back at it, yeah, it was
Absolutely
bad.
terrible. Like you had like 5 different things you could choose.
Oh
And
my God. Right. No, it was such a terrible
it
platform.
was
I
so
mean, they were
bad.
doing what they could do for that back then, but it was awful, awful, awful.
But
Sorry, go
you
ahead.
had to start somewhere. I get
Yeah,
it.
you did. You did.
Right,
You did.
and then that became you start doing the YouTube videos. I went and got a power shot from like Radio Shack, and I'm like, okay, started recording that. Taught myself iMovie, little basic things. You're like, okay, how do I get this up? How do I get
Yeah.
this clip to here? And you start learning things about visuals and lighting and stuff like that. So I started doing the YouTube thing, and then that kind of happened for a while, and then that moved into more comedic videos, and then I ended up getting my own domain, kevindwayne.com, and you start teaching myself the basics about HTML. And then that pushed us well into when I moved to Atlanta. The photography thing happened on the way here. We drove here, me and my cousin. I'm taking all these Instagram photos. I'm just like she's like, you have a really good eye. I'm like, girl, that's just the filter. Like, get out of here. Like, just stop. Like, that's the filter. She's like, no, like, you have a really, like, different eye. You should really, like, look into doing photography. And I'm just like, whatever, girl. And I think in the midst of me looking for work, when I moved here, I was just like, I'll invest in a camera and see what happens. But it was because I was linked to, actually, this involves you, Jarrett. Oh, see how this works.
Oh.
Jarrett, when I moved here, he linked me out to this group of creatives in Atlanta. And so he was
Oh,
like,
okay. I didn't know where this story was going. So I
exactly.
was
Oh,
like,
you're good. Yeah. You're just, you're good. You're safe. You're safe. Yeah. He linked me to this group of creatives here. And I was actually very inspired by them. And they all kind of worked in different industries, graphic design and video and photography and stuff as well. And me doing my whole blog thing, I was like, okay, I'll invest in a DSLR. And I can have better quality, higher quality videos. And I was learning so much from them. So I was like, I'll try that. And so I got the camera and I started just kind of teaching myself things. And it was still about video. I was still like, I'm still focused on video. I wasn't thinking about photography. And I messed around and said something to my barber one day about having a camera. And
uh-oh.
it was like 3 weeks later, he was like, hey, I have a gig for you. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what?
Excuse me?
Like, how does that work? A gig? Like, what? And I'm kind of freaking out because at this point I'm thinking like, is that even legal? Like, what do I do? Like, it's just like, what? I'm about to get paid for something. Like, I didn't know what to do, but I was like, you know what, just do it, like whatever. And like he was like, yeah, just you got this. And I went there. It was a jewelry shoot. It was a startup
Oh,
of a jewelry. Right, it was a jewelry shoot. And it was actually at the shop. And we took all these pictures. It's funny because those are actually framed on my wall right now. And that was my very first paid gig. And I literally just I just I don't know. I just did it. I was just
made it
like,
work.
I made it work, and that started something. And so I he began to rely on me. He's like, okay, well, if you can do this, you can do some other things too. And so like he started like recruiting me for videos and everything else, like commercials, all type of stuff. Like I'm just like, what the hell? And then word of mouth through that, I started meeting other people. Next thing you know, I'm filling out business paperwork because I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of legit now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it happened so quickly. And then along the way, I'm teaching myself things. I'm learning all of this stuff like by myself. I didn't go to photography school. I didn't do any of this stuff. I'm learning it as I go.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind because I was like, I didn't grow up saying, oh, I want to be a photographer when I grow up. It just happened. But I love it though. Like, I absolutely love it. I love expressing myself through it. And so I was like, wow, that's crazy how a blog became this. And then also now here we are with the podcast. And it's just interesting seeing how things change over. It seems like you've had some experiences like that too, where things have become other things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think being a creative kind of works that way for a lot of people, at least from in my experience and a lot of the people around me. Uh, you, I think creatives are inherently resourceful and trying to figure out how to get something done, how to, whether it's tell a story or convey a message or get out an image or say something or whatever it is. And you talked about the first time you ever did photography, and like I'm thinking about there was a good span of time that I was like I had beaded some bracelets for myself that I wanted, and then someone else wanted one, and then another person wanted one, and then it became a thing. And I was like, oh, I want to take some nice pictures, and I found this thing on I don't know, Google or YouTube or something about how to make like a white studio to film things in, but it was like out of a box and a shower curtain and some tag board and some lights and this different thing. And like the photos came out looking amazing from my iPhone. And it was like so random, but it was like I needed some good photos and I had to figure out how to make it happen, and I did it. And I think that's how all of these things kind of come together. It's like I needed to do X and I figured out how to do it and do it well, and I was able to do that. For me, that started, I think, I mean, my first job in media was, like I said, working at the radio station when I was 15. But then the first time I ever did something myself was probably like I had been hosting. I remember in like seventh grade, maybe hosting the church youth banquet, and it was the biggest deal in my life that I had been asked to host the banquet. And like, but then when I went to college, this was like early MySpace days, like, and then like everyone was still using email to really communicate. And people kept saying to me, "Oh, when you're away, send me an email, let me know what's going on." And this was before we had Facebook in the way that we do now. And so I had started collecting all these email addresses, and I'm like, I'm not emailing all these individual niggas telling them like, "Oh, I had spaghetti at lunch." Like, I'm not doing that. So then it occurred to me, I was like, oh wow, I have like all of these email. I've built a little bit of an audience, and I haven't even left for college yet. And so I figured I would do a monthly email to everyone at the same time. And that began a publication that ended up becoming myself and half a dozen of my friends writing. I mean, over the course of years, it grew from myself just being me, like dispatchers from third period, or my class or whatever. And then it was like, oh, this is something that I learned, or this was something that was important to me, or whatever. And my friends doing the same thing. And so that was kind of the way that I was able to communicate with everyone back at home, and it continued to grow to where it was more than just people in the Bay Area where I was from. And I I don't know if I'm answering your question or not,
You
but
are.
that was kind of how it began for me as far as media is concerned, and just kind of wanting to share a story. And I had been in newspaper when I was in 11th grade. Much to my chagrin, my newspaper advisor had asked me, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be the advisor of the newspaper next year." This is when I was in 10th grade, and he was like, "I really think you should do the newspaper." And I was like, "I really think you're wrong." And like, kind of, it took some convincing, and then it was, one of the best things that ever happened for me. It was the first time I'd ever written a story, or like broken a story, and like it got huge response, because we were writing about students in, mind you, I'm in 11th grade at the time, and we're writing about students who were kissing on campus, and we called it like swapping spit or something like that. And mind you, that's fucking disgusting, but like we we wrote that story, and like students all over campus were talking about it, but then also teachers and administration were talking about it, and parents were talking about it, and then the PTA ended up having something to say, and then the school board. And it was, it was a huge thing, and that was my introduction to having a story, go viral before going viral was a thing. um
And listen, after last year, I think you have experience with that. Well,
yeah.
honestly, you saying that, I just had an aha moment about you. I was like, that makes total sense, because if you did all this newspaper and reporting and stuff, that's why you were so quick with the whole Melania Trump thing, where it was just like you just threw that together at like a Starbucks, and
Well, and I guess for people who don't know what we're talking about, last year, the Melania Trump story is something that I broke on Twitter. The Melania Trump plagiarism story with Michelle Obama. And so, whenever I look back at just that tweet, or that series of tweets, it was kind of a confluence of all of the things that I have been doing over the course of, my years as a journalist, which is a weird thing, because I never called myself a journalist. I was a reporter, or I was a producer, or I was a writer, but like journalist was never a word that I used until that, which is a whole other conversation. But like, it was a confluence of all those things, because I knew how to write a headline. I knew the importance of rich media. I knew the importance of, including, verification for the content that you were talking about. I had experience, a little bit of like political experience, and just more so paying attention, not necessarily working on campaigns or in office or something. But it was all of those things kind of coming together at one time for
and
me
being
to.
a Obama stan. I do remember that.
Well,
I mean,
I
because
appreciate
I thought that
I
was
appreciate Obama.
when I saw that happen, I was all like, look what I was like, it worked too. Cause I remember like you always knew what was up with the Obamas. Like I always thought that was so dope. And I was like, that's crazy how your interests became that. You were able to be like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was completely. I hate to say it was random, because I don't think it was an accident, but I mean, it definitely wasn't something. As I always say to people, if you had asked me 30 seconds before Melania started saying those words, "Do you remember what Michelle Obama said in 2008?" I'd have been like, "Are you serious? No, like, of course I don't." But kind of like hearing a song that you hadn't heard in a long time, like, as soon as Melania started saying, "The height of your achievement is the reach of your dreams," I knew what she was saying, and I finished saying it out loud with her, which, was bizarre in the moment. It was like, why do I know what she's saying, in a very "That's So Raven" kind of way? And then realized, oh my God, like, I knew immediately that it was Michelle Obama, and kind of assumed that everyone knew that it was Michelle Obama. I was like, obviously that's Michelle Obama. Everyone knows that, right? Right?
Right. But meanwhile,
Anybody? Somebody?
crickets, right?
Can anybody hear me? Yeah, it was like it was really weird. But yeah, I mean, so all of my experiences up until that point definitely had prepared me for it. And I mean, that week I did a ton of media, and I was really grateful for all of the different ways that I had been a creative, from being a writer, from being a producer, from being a host, from being a guest. That it made me a much better guest, and it made me a lot more capable, that week, those weeks that followed, when I was taking a ton of interviews and talking about, how it happened or whatever. I had been a booker, so I knew what it was like to be a booker, and like trying to book a person on your show and all that. So, I mean, I've had a very my resume is very diverse, but I've never been more grateful for that diversity of my resume than I have been in the last year, because it's been a major blessing to me. And I think my parents sometimes have always been like, so what you what is you what are you doing? And like, you know what I mean? Like my dad has worked at the same company. If I'm 32, he worked there for 33 years. He just retired this spring. And he's moved up the ranks, but like I have no interest in being at the same job for 30 years. I've moved around and done a lot of different things, and I've been really grateful for that. And I think a lot of that um, is just wanting to be creative and being able to kind of, make my own path, if you will.
Well, speaking of paint, you're an interior designer, and you're just fucking awesome at it. Okay, so how did that?
Oh, thank
No,
you.
well, because once again I remember meeting you years ago, and you were like doing
Yeah.
like your sister's room or something, and it was like I was like, damn, that's neat as fuck. Like, how does he make? Like, how is these perfect ass corners? Like, how is he doing this? What the hell? How did that begin?
Well, and I mean, I so I started doing design probably in like 11th grade, like interior design. And I mean, not even like I'm doing makeovers or anything like that. It was more of like my friend's parents said that they could paint their room, and my friend asked me to help them. And then I did. And then another person, wanted something in their room, and then we did. And the first time I ever really did like a full on interior design job, a friend of mine, her mom came to me and was like, "So we want to surprise Danielle with redoing her bedroom while she's away at school for the day or wherever she was going to be gone all day. Could you help?" And like, I don't really know why they asked me. I don't know what they had seen of mine, but I was like, absolutely. And like at the time, I loved this show called Surprise by Design, where they would like a husband would want to do something for his wife, and they would call this show, and they would come in, and while she was at work, they'd completely change the place, and she'd walk in and be like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing ever," that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so we did that for her, and it was so gratifying, like to see her walk in, and she was like totally surprised and loved the design. But I never considered myself an interior designer. It was just something that I was doing for fun. And then I got a job working at a television station in Florida, hosting a show. I was one of the hosts of a show there every day. And after 8 months of living there, I got laid off. And I was really frustrated because I had moved across the country for the stupid job. And then I got laid off. And then I had just finished my apartment. Just for context, I turned 30 on Saturday. I finished my apartment on Sunday, went back to work on Wednesday, and got laid off on Thursday. So it was a busy week.
Wow.
And I put all the photos of my newly decorated
And it
apartment
was
on.
everything. I was like, this apartment is like, I was like, my God, it was so
Well, I mean,
good.
I was feeling myself like, oh, oh, we did this. Yeah, this was really good. So I was very happy with it. And which is why I shared the photos. I was like, oh, look at my place, blah blah blah. This is so cool. And it had been months and months of work of like painting and changing things and DIY projects and all this. And after posting those photos, people started to hit me up asking me if I would help them do their place, and I was like, well, if you'll write me a check,
Okay.
we can make that
Put
happen.
that deposit
Uh,
down.
Exactly, exactly. And so, then it really became a business after having just kind of been, something I was good at and never really even considered monetizing. So,
Right.
yeah, that's how the interior design business was born, and here we are.
Do you ever get like imposter syndrome where you feel like, nah, you don't want me? Or do you just dive into it?
It's funny that you ask that. I'm working on a book right now that is all about that, about feeling like an imposter. I said earlier that I never felt like a journalist prior to the Melania Trump story. When the story broke, and there were so there were all these headlines about who I was, but all of the headlines were like laid off journalist, out of work journalist, journalist that ain't got no job, like all these different things that were basically saying like I was a journalist who was not getting paid as a journalist. But like I had never used the word journalist before, and it was so weird to me to see all of these people talking about me being a journalist and how saying all these very kind, even if not a little bit shady,
Okay.
kind things about me as being this great journalist or whatever. And I was like, it's so weird because I never felt like I was a journalist. I felt like I was a
Just Jared.
storyteller or a
Just Jared.
writer.
Just Jared. Just Jared.
Exactly, exactly. And so it was very strange to me. And then I I I remember very vividly the first time I had a byline in the New York Times. Months later, after Milan in, I'd gotten the opportunity to write some things for the New York Times, and I'm sitting in New York at my on my best friend's couch, and the piece is published and it's online, and I'm looking at my byline in the New York Times, and I turn to him, and oddly his name is also Jarrett. I turned to him and I was like, I still don't feel like I'm a real journalist. And he was like, what? And I was like, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm published in the New York Times today, but I still feel like this is not real.
Right.
Like, I'm like, people are gonna figure out that I've been faking this the whole
And
time.
they burn you at the
Um,
stake. Get him!
exactly, and like Donald Trump's gonna come after me and read me or something. But like, I've always had that feeling, and feeling like I was making this up, and like people were going to figure it out, and so I've been working on a project right now talking about the imposter syndrome, and having her. The thing that really made me realize like this is a thing and you need to stop it, was hearing Viola Davis on the red carpet at the Oscars. She was, I mean, this was this past year, and she's on the red carpet getting ready to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And she said to the interviewer, I feel like a fraud. Like, I feel like one of these days someone's gonna realize I'm not a real actress and that I'm a hack, and they're gonna expose me. And I remember like kind of thinking to myself, if Viola Davis, like our Meryl Streep,
Mm-hmm.
is on the red carpet talking about feeling like she's not a real actress, I need to just let that shit go.
Yeah.
Like, you may never feel like you're legit, and that really was helpful for me.
Maya Angelou said the same thing too. She said that she
Yeah, I've
felt
heard
like,
that.
yeah, and it's a real thing because like even like the photography thing or anything, like even with the podcast, and people are like, oh, will you please? Like I was listening to someone else's podcast that I liked, and they were talking about how they liked my podcast and they wanted me to be on the show, but they didn't know me, and I was like, of course I'll be on your show. Like what the hell? And
Yeah.
and stuff like that, or even like with photography, like I remember when I started getting weddings, and I'm like, are you sure, girl? Like it's your special day, and they're like, no, we want you to do it. Like I've actually been talked into money, Jared. Like I'm turning it down, and they're
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
no.
that problem. No,
Like,
that's not my story.
right,
No, I'm
right.
kidding.
What, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, and I felt like, no, I'm not qualified. They're like, no, I love your work. I've been to your site. I like your work. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then even I had this big company request my services this year, and that kind of blew my mind too. And I'm like, what the fuck, Kevin? Like, what's happening? Like, what is happening? Like, you're
Yeah.
like, they're gonna find you out. They're gonna find you out. You're a fraud. And it's just like, no. And you have to talk yourself through it. Like, no, they've been like at this point, I have a 5-year portfolio.
Yeah.
I said yes to everything in the beginning. So I have this expansive portfolio of like baby pictures, jewelry, food,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything, brunches, everything. And so people see it, they're like, "No, I like what you do, and I want to pay you for your services." But it just blows your mind because you still feel like that kid or that person with a hobby, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like it can be a lot of pressure, but you have to actually believe in yourself. It's like, "No, I belong here."
Well, and the interesting thing to me, and part of why I'm working on the book that I'm working on right now, is because the thing that's interesting to me about the imposter syndrome is that it really doesn't have limitations. So, I mean, we could be talking about Viola Davis on the red carpet, right? Or, so it can be that it can be someone that is that successful, but it could also be the complete opposite and be paralyzing to someone to never really get started, or to never really engage their talent or their gift or whatever it is. And so that's what's been really interesting to me about it, because by definition the imposter syndrome is about having great success but not feeling worthy of it. But I want to expand that a little bit beyond that, to really include people who have like gifts and talents that they don't allow themselves to use because they don't think that they're good enough, or they don't think they're worthy of being able to do the work that they want to do, or at least be able to show people of the work that they can do, or the other things that they could achieve. Um, so to answer your question, yes, I've experienced imposter syndrome. It's a very real
It
thing,
is.
and I'm working on that right now.
And great. And then also with that said, you touched on a little bit, like, okay, so what would your advice be to other creatives out there who feel stifled, or because it's a grind, it's an ongoing grind.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to that person whose rocket hasn't come yet, and they're just kind of holding on in the hopes of? What would you say to them?
Well, a couple of things. One, I wouldn't be a creative for the sake of the rocket,
Mm-hmm.
of like being shot into the stratosphere. I am a creative because I enjoy creating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think everyone would love, fame and wealth and acclaim, and that is all fantastic, and it's also, a reasonable goal to be able to be recognized for the work that you do. But I think it's also important to be a. I think it's important to create because you're a creative, not because you want people, because people need to love this or whatever. And I remember listening to plenty of musicians who have talked about, like, I made this album because it was what I wanted to make, and I hope that people like it. But if they don't, I still made the album that I wanted to make.
Lauren Hill.
Um, I mean that, it goes across the board for a lot of people. Like, and I do the same thing for myself with when I'm writing an op-ed on, a controversial issue or whatever it is. I have to just write for myself, and believe that if I feel this way, someone else probably does as well. Um, as an interior designer, I always have the struggle of figuring out where the line is for myself of how much do I give that the client wants, and how much do I, you know, overrule and say, okay, you hired me because you wanted my perspective on this. What you want in here doesn't make sense or whatever. So I say all that to say, like, if you're a creative and you want to create and you want to design or you want to write or you want to build or you want to do whatever it is, I think it's most important to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to just get after it. And also, sorry, I live in Inglewood, and I just think it's okay to just like shoot off a firework from time to time,
Oh,
in the
okay.
middle of the afternoon. Um, I just, I, I love my people. Anyway, I think it's important to just get out there and do that and get after it and continue. And the other thing is to be continue being consistent. And I mean,
Mm,
I'm saying that to you on your 1 year anniversary of
absolutely.
your show. Like, it's important to just keep going after it and don't look for validation outside of, you really feeling good about your work, because everyone's not going to believe in it, everyone's not going to love it, everyone's not going to laud it or give you cheers or jeers. um,
Absolutely.
but
And
if it's something that you believe in, you should continue to do it.
you should so believe it. I'm glad you said that. And I agree with you. Create just to create. Everything that I do, photography, podcasting, comedy videos, those are all a form of self care for me. Like,
Absolutely.
it's literally, I like to express, and these are different ways of expression. This is just like a journal, and this is like literally having a conversation with a friend, and it's just you guys are just listening to it. And this is what helps me because I have a 9 to 5 as well, and it's like that's cool for paying like my bills and stuff. But if I didn't have these other forms of expression, I wouldn't be the same guy. This is how I breathe, and that's what it feels to be a creative. You create because you want to create. That is your kind of like your gift to the world in that sense. And it's not so much being validated, it's just that's how you express yourself. So,
Well, and I always say this, and sometimes people look at me sideways until I explain it, but I feel like what I do as an interior designer is almost exactly what I do as a reporter. What I'm doing is taking all of these different elements, whether they are interviews and research and facts and, information, and putting it all together in an article or a package or, an interview or whatever it is, putting all that together in a way that is digestible for people to understand something or take away a story or take away a message or some information. The same way that when I have a design client, I have to take my own sense of style and design, but also the necessity of function and the interest of that client, and the colors that they love, the textures that resonate with them, the kind of artwork that they like. I'll take all of those things and distill it down into a room that tells a story about who that person is or how they live in that space or what they what they look to accomplish in that room. And so for me, all of it is creative. Is all of it is a part of being a creative and being able to take different pieces and make them all work together in one piece, that in one piece that tells a story, that says something, that all works together. So that is how I feel about being creative with all the stuff that I do, whether I'm making a bracelet or if I'm, writing a TV show or a book or whatever. It all kind of works together.
And when that final product comes out, it feels so good. There's nothing like it. It's like, wow,
Listen,
I did this.
yeah,
And so
right.
to close that out, be consistent, believe in yourself, and just keep moving forward. Like that's really the key. And that was awesome. That's awesome. So Jarrett, can you tell the people where they can find you on the interwebs?
Yes, you can find me everywhere at Jarrett Hill. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my show. We do a show called Back to Reality, and it is a show that focuses on the intersection of politics and pop culture. I do that show now as a podcast, but also more popularly as a Facebook Live show with NBC BLK. So if you go to facebook.com/NBCBLK, you can watch the show there live every Thursday at 7 o'clock. Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern. And we have fantastic guests that come on and talk to us about the news of the day, and whether it's Rob in China or if it's 100 shootings in Chicago over a long weekend. So we weave together politics and pop culture in a way that I really, really enjoy. And then we also have the situationship on that show where our listeners write in letters and ask us for their advice. Kevin, you've been a part of that a couple of times.
Yes.
I always say it's where our lovely listener has written us a letter asking us for our advice, and we then give them our advice and advise them not to take it. And we have a really good time with that as well. So you can watch us on NBC BLK's Facebook Live, or also you can find us on iTunes if you type in Back to Reality with the number 2. And get the show there. I'm everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Jarrett Hill, JarrettHi. I'm spelling that like you're not able to click on it in the description of this episode or something. But yeah.
Awesome. And you guys know, please subscribe to the Outline Podcast as well. It's the Outline Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also follow my personal pages, The World of Kevin. And everything is at the hub, which is KevinDwayne.com. Thank you all so much for...
Oh,
yes.
I'm a bad marketer.
You're good. What were you going to say?
No, I'm realizing I just said all this about design. You can go to jarrethill.com/design if you are interested in hiring me as a designer.
Absolutely. Yes, go to jarretthill.com. 2 R's, 2 T's. I crack up because there's a whole Starbucks story, but we won't get into that. But it's just so funny.
Listen,
because they can't get the name right.
They do me so dirty at Starbucks. It's not even funny. Like,
oh my God. But Jarrett, thank you so much for being on the show. It's the weirdest thing because I've been on your show twice. So I don't know why I'm being so like, oh my God, Jarrett's going to be on my show. Like, it's the funniest. We've worked together so many times. I guess it's one of those things where it's just, I appreciate your work, and I'm very happy for where your career is going. And it's so awesome. Like, it's like, I know him.
Well, congratulations to you, Kevin, and congratulations on 1 year. Congratulations on the outline and all of the cool stuff that you've done over the years, and the voice that you've been within community and within within the zeitgeist of YouTubers and podcasters and writers and creatives. And just congratulations on all of the awesome stuff that you're doing. And all of us that are watching you are proud of you and excited for what you're doing and looking forward to where you go next. So congratulations to you on being fantastic.
Thank you so much. And with that said, beautiful message, by the way. Thank you. But with that said, we're going to get out of here, and I will talk to you all next week. Happy anniversary, everyone. Peace out.
Happy anniversary.